The Vedas never promised heaven. They promised awakening. For thousands of years, humanity has searched for heaven, a place beyond suffering, a reward beyond death, a realm where pain ends and peace begins. Most religions built their foundations around this promise, but the Vedas did something radical. They never promised heaven, not once, not as a destination, not as a reward, not as an escape from life. Instead, they offered something far more unsettling and infinitely more powerful: awakening. Not after death, not in another world, but here, now, within the very mind that seeks heaven in the first place. The illusion of heaven and the fear that created it. To understand the Vedas, we must first understand why humans invented heaven at all. Heaven was not born from wisdom, it was born from fear. Fear of death, impermanence, loss, meaninglessness. The human mind, terrified of non-existence, created a continuation, a place where suffering ends and identity survives. Heaven is not a spiritual discovery. It is a psychological coping mechanism. The Vedas saw this clearly, and instead of feeding that fear, they did something extraordinary. They turned attention away from the afterlife and toward the nature of consciousness itself. Why the Vedas refuse to promise a reward? A promise of heaven creates dependence. Dependence on belief, dependence on authority, dependence on obedience. The Vedas rejected this model completely. They did not say, "Live well and you will be rewarded." They asked, "Who is the one seeking reward?" This question alone dismantles the entire idea of heaven, because once you examine the seeker, the craving for heaven dissolves. The Vedic insight: suffering is not in the world. It is in perception. The Vedas observed something radical. Suffering does not come from existence itself. It comes from misidentification. You suffer not because life is painful, but because you mistake impermanent experiences for permanent reality. You suffer not because death exists, but because you cling to identity. You suffer not because the world is cruel, but because you expect it to be otherwise. The solution, therefore, was not escape. It was awakening. What awakening means, in the Vedic sense, awakening does not mean enlightenment as an achievement. It means seeing clearly, seeing that thoughts arise and pass, emotions fluctuate, identity shifts, the body changes, but awareness remains. This awareness, not heaven, was the ultimate discovery of the Vedas. And once discovered, the need for heaven disappears. Because why seek a future paradise when clarity is available now? Why the Vedas never focused on the afterlife? Unlike later traditions, the Vedas speak very little about life after death. This was not an omission. It was intentional. They understood something fundamental. An unawakened mind will turn any afterlife into another prison. Even heaven, when approached with attachment, becomes suffering, because the mind does not change by changing locations. It changes only by understanding itself. The real meaning of moksha. Moksha is often misunderstood as liberation after death, but the Vedas describe it very differently. Moksha means freedom from false identification, freedom from compulsive desire, freedom from fear of loss, freedom from psychological bondage. It is not a place. It is a state of perception. A person can be alive, breathing, working, living, and still be liberated, because liberation is not about where you go. It is about how you see. Why the Vedas avoid moral absolutes. Religions promise heaven through morality. The Vedas do not. They never say, "Be good and you will be rewarded." They say, "Understand the nature of action," because morality without awareness becomes control. The Vedas were not interested in creating obedient humans. They were interested in creating conscious beings, and consciousness does not grow through fear of punishment or hope of reward. It grows through understanding. The Vedic view of death, not an enemy, not a gateway death, in the Vedas, is not the doorway to heaven. It is simply a transition. What matters is not where one goes after death, but what one realizes before it. Because death does not transform consciousness. It only removes the body. Whatever confusion existed before death continues after it, which is why the Vedas emphasized awakening now, not later. Why the Vedas focused on self-knowledge instead of salvation implies something is wrong with you. The Vedas never said that. They said ignorance exists, not sin. Ignorance can be dissolved through understanding. Sin demands punishment. Ignorance demands awareness. This single distinction separates the Vedas from almost every religious system. The radical freedom the Vedas offered the Vedas did not want followers. They wanted free minds. Minds that could observe without fear, question without guilt, live without clinging, die without terror. This is why the Vedas never claimed final authority. They encouraged inquiry. They welcomed doubt. They celebrated direct experience. Why heaven is a distraction from awakening. Heaven pushes fulfillment into the future. Awakening pulls awareness into the present. Heaven says, endure now, enjoy later. The Vedas say, see clearly now, and suffering dissolves. One creates dependence, the other creates freedom. The silence at the heart of the Vedas. If you read the Vedas closely, you will notice something strange. The deeper they go, the quieter they become. Fewer instructions, fewer words, more silence, because truth in the Vedic view is not spoken, it is recognized. And recognition happens in stillness. Why this teaching was never popular. Awakening is not comforting. It removes illusions. It challenges identity. It dissolves certainty. Heaven is comforting. Awakening is unsettling. Most people prefer comfort. That is why the world embraced belief systems and slowly forgot the deeper purpose of the Vedas. The Vedas were not offering hope. They were offering clarity. Hope is for those who fear the present. Clarity belongs to those who see. The Vedas did not promise, you will be saved. They revealed, you were never trapped. The final truth, the Vedas point toward. The Vedas do not say, believe and you will reach heaven. They say, see clearly, and you will realize there was never anything to escape. They do not promise a better world after death. They offer a deeper understanding of this one. They do not promise paradise. They reveal presence, and in that presence, heaven becomes unnecessary. Because the one who is awake does not seek another world. They finally understand this one.